getting old now, Elvir. We can't.
Not that old.
Can't be complete. Well,
Not that old.
You know,
We get
a little bit less hair. Well, I've definitely got no hair since the last time we were.
The hair is the only problem we have. Everything else is good.
Mate, thanks for helping me out.
Anytime.
Worked out really well, didn't it?
Yep.
Get myself down here and set us up well. No, it's cool, and I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you took the time. Yours is an interesting journey. I know you through footy, right? Goalkeeping and coaching along the way, and you came into a job after I left it, and we move in similar circles with similar people that we know. Right. But the reason I wanted to get you on is your story is a lot different from a lot of people who came over here. Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where each week our guests will recount their own experiences of resilience and transformation, whether it's moving to a new country, tackling health challenges, changing careers, or breaking through personal barriers. When Elvir Prasovic was forced to leave his Sarajevo home in 1992, after war broke out in his native Bosnia, he embarked on a refugee journey that eventually brought him to the US in 1999. Elvir talks candidly of his memories as a child and teenager, and how his experiences have shaped his perspective and outlook on life as a husband, father, and educator in his home state of New Jersey. You were born in Sarajevo, yep. Bosnia?
Correct.
So what was it like in Sarajevo as a youngster before you moved?
Well, life was a little bit different, right? Because obviously we were still living through the communist era, right?
Yeah.
All the leftovers of it the last couple of years, right? So I was born in 84 when the Olympics were in Sarajevo, the Winter Olympics. So sports is kind of like a big deal now. Born in 84, obviously we're living through communism / difficult times where everything you have is enough, but is never enough.
Right.
Right? Things kind of fall apart politically. Things kind of fall apart for the country. You start to struggle really quick as a family. And then, of course, in 92, the war starts, right? So everything falls apart. Yugoslavia falls apart. It becomes 13 different countries. War because of religion, war because of politics, war because of necessity, war because of everything else. And so life was always difficult, but it was always comfortable enough. But it was always comfortable enough because you're living in a neighborhood where everybody's taking care of each other, right? Your mom's going to work, somebody's babysitting the whole neighborhood. Your dad's at work, somebody else is taking care of, any repairs in the house. If it's not a family member, it's somebody else. So that's how you kind of grew up. Everybody kind of took care of each other, and then everybody had enough, but never more than what they should, right? So that's kind of like a little bit of the memory of the first 7-8 years of my life. But life generally was good as a kid. Look, how much do you need as a 7-year-old kid, right?
Yeah. You don't know any different as well, though, right? I mean, this is just the life that you're in. I mean, to somebody else might think, communism, blah, blah, blah. But to you, it's just, this is what it is. We have what we need. We need to have, and we're good. Yeah.
Correct. This is what you grew up with. And we didn't know any better, right? Because how far did I travel?
Yeah.
2-3 miles down the road. That's about it, right into the middle of the city. I visited some, cousins and others that I had in Montenegro, but that's about it. I've never traveled out of the country. So you never actually knew anything else because that's all you had, right? You had a black and white TV at home, you played with whatever you could outside with rocks, whatever it is. So that's your life, right? It was very simple, nothing compared to right now with technology.
And your parents, what did they do?
So my dad was always working for a company as a security guard, kind of like a night shift security guard, taking care of a construction company so they don't steal stuff. My mom always had odd jobs because she was always taking care of the kids, taking care of other people's kids. So she would work in a hotel as a cleaning maid. She would do odd jobs in a restaurant, clean this. So it was all small odd jobs just to kind of get some extra money. Taking care of the family was kind of the main thing, right? I have 3 sisters who are older than me. So when she wasn't around, they had to take care of me. So, You
get bullied around by the 3 sisters?
Yeah, I did. They actually did look after me, right? My sisters actually, I think, like me a lot. But, especially my middle sister, she took care of me a lot. And she always says, she's like, man, I had to carry you around. I had to clean your, behind and all of that. So she really spent a whole lot of time with me.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of took care of each other, right? So that was kind of like the neighborhood feel. And that was kind of like life before it all kind of exploded in 92.
So 92, what 8-year-old, I suppose you had pretty vivid memories, I'm sure, but what are your memories of 92 and the war breaking out and then having to leave? What's your most vivid recollection of that?
So for me, it hit me one night when we had to leave our house and go into somebody else's house because, the house is being shelled and we don't have a basement that has 2 exits. We only had a basement that had 1 exit. So you go into somebody else's basement, and, just, to hide basically and to survive the night. that's when I kind of remembering or that's when my memory comes into place. Oh, this is kind of real now, right? Because you can actually see people dying. You can actually see, shells flying all over, right? You hear the noises, you hear the sirens, you hear all kinds of different things, right? So that kind of goes overnight. The next morning you wake up, you're still going to school. It's kind of like a, chill day. It's normal. And then at night you're going back into the same procedure. And you're doing this for about a week or two. And and obviously parents are talking, everybody else is talking in the neighborhood as you're traveling through through the streets. You're starting to see barricades, you're starting to see, more soldiers. And, we're not talking about trained soldiers. We're talking about plain clothes people like you and myself right now.
Yeah.
Getting a couple guns and, we're protecting the neighborhood, right? So things start to get a little bit more serious in that sense. And then you just start to see, a week later, 2 weeks later, a house is down, a second house is down. This is burning, that is burning. School gets closed. The stadium gets bombed. My school was right next to the stadium, the Olympic Stadium. So now you start to see the beginning of the war. And then you quickly realize, even if it's a kid, you're like, well, this is not a joke anymore, right? This is not, what I was watching on TV, Vietnam and kind of like, movies like that.
This is actually
happening here now. But you still don't have the sense like you're going to leave. You're always thinking this is just temporary, couple of weeks.
Would it have been your dad that said, listen, you guys, we've got to go?
So I think it was definitely my dad, but it was also my mom's decision. And it was almost like a neighborhood decision. All right. Kids and, females leave. Males stay behind. Protect the neighborhood. We'll see each other in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, whatever the road takes us.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the decision. Had a couple of cousins that were really the first, victims of the war because they live right next to the airport and they were always involved in what I would say, difficult businesses and selling all kinds of different things to all kinds of different people. So they were taken care of first during the war. We still don't know where they are. Nobody ever found them, dead or not dead or disappeared. Once they were gone, your kind of, protective shell is gone. Because if they can take those guys out, they can certainly take care of you and others, right?
Yeah.
So that's when the news kind of spreads like, okay, everybody's going to go and everybody's, going to have to leave, clean up, pack whatever you can, small little bag and just go off. And the next step was, where do we go?
So what do you do? Like you went to Macedonia.
Yep.
How did you get there?
So we walked from our house to the bus station.
Okay.
Not that far. So there was a military escort later on. This is at the beginning of the war. There was no military.
So you've made the decision.
We've made the decision now to leave before everything really escalates. This is February, April, May.
Okay.
February, March, April of 92. So we're leaving. We get in the buses. Buses sponsored mainly, again, by people from the neighborhood, couple of singers that were living in the neighborhood. They just finance buses and they said, get as many people on these buses as you can, get them out of here before this escalates.
Right.
We get to the border between Bosnia and Macedonia and the buses are stopped. They're like, you cannot come in here. So go back for a day about, 50.
Is that because it wasn't recognized yet?
It wasn't recognized yet as a refugee crisis. So they're like, the border is closed. We're not accepting anybody here. There's nothing going on. Go back to your country. That's basically how it is, right? Obviously, the buses are full with kids, little kids, lots of little kids, mainly females and kids, couple males here and there. They return the buses. Buses return. The next day, we take a different path. Now we actually got to go through Serbia to get into Macedonia. Buses are stopped again. They pull all the males out of the buses. Obviously not kids, but all the older males because there are also some older people. And they said, okay, we're going to allow all the females and the kids to continue the journey. Get to the border again, crossing guards. Now you cannot go.
Oh.
So you're coming back again, right? So this is the process of 2 or 3 days going back and forth at this border, right? And there's a river right there. And the fear is always, if they don't let you through, you're getting stuck here. And if they don't want you here, where are you going to end up? Right in that river. All the buses and everything, right? So every time they made the buses park, they made them park right next to the bridge by the river. Probably strategically planned, whatever it was. But eventually somebody, I don't know how it happened, eventually somebody just said, okay, tonight is the night, crossed the border, got into Macedonia.
And your dad stayed at home, right?
The whole time. Yes, my dad stayed the whole time.
Because he'd be one of the guys at the barricades, just him and his mates, literally the lads from the community, get a gun, get whatever you can, and just defend.
Correct. That's
what they've got.
Basically what they did, right?
Yeah.
You went to work during the day maybe, and at night, it was your turn. 2, 3 shifts, whatever it is, it's your turn.
Was there a contact in Macedonia? Did you have family there? Did you have anybody there?
No, we did. So we didn't have any family in Macedonia, but that was the closest country that we could possibly go. So you can't go to Croatia because Croatia is part of that conflict. You can't go to Serbia because it's part of the conflict. You can't really go to Montenegro because it's still part of Serbia. The European Union is not the European Union that we have of today. So where do you go? You go to the next country, which was Macedonia. So we get into Macedonia. They recognize the conflict, and they station us all into a refugee camp. And a little bit different of a refugee camp, not kind of like, tents and stuff, but it was a dorm that they had used for the university, and it was empty. So they put everybody in there. We're talking about 10, 15 people per room, sleep on the floor, sleep wherever you can. Here's the 3 meals during the day, and kind of survive, right? You can't work, you can't do anything. You're just basically stationed there. And the idea was this is going to be a stopping point before you go somewhere else. It was never going to be the stopping point forever.
How long were you there for?
We're there for 7 months.
Oh, yeah. Just the same thing over and over again.
Same thing over and over again.
But you knew everybody who was there because they're all from the same place as you
We knew a lot of people.
Okay.
We knew a lot of people that were there because, again, this was almost like a neighborhood bus that left, or a couple.
Did that make it it's horrible. It's a horrible circumstance, but did that at least give you a little bit of sort of comfort because your sisters would have been there, your mum would have been there, your friends potentially would have been there as well?
Yeah, sure. It gives you a little bit of comfort because everybody's together. And again, the neighborhood feel continues a little bit elsewhere, and, taking care of each other continues elsewhere. But, we're there for 7 months. A couple of other ones have family in Germany, have family in Spain, have family all over Europe. One family leaves, the next family leaves, the next family leaves. So now you're starting to see people leaving, going elsewhere. And, there's a little bit more space, but the living quarters are still not,
No.
If you go from 15 to 10, the room is still not designed for 10. It has 2 beds, right?
Yeah.
So you're just sharing beds, whatever it is, you sleep for 3 hours, the next person sleeps for 5, the next person gets in there, shared bathrooms, shared dish, share everything. So
do you have any idea what's going back on at home as well?
You kind of know a little bit from, watching TV and stuff, but
no actual contact. Like your father, you're not speaking to your father.
No, not me, right? My mom would maybe get a phone call a week for 5 minutes. Everything is okay. And obviously nobody's going to tell you really what's going on.
Yeah.
Because that's why they send
That's
you.
got to be tough.
They don't want you to see it, so they sent you away for it, right? So we're there for 7 months, and it was survival mode. This is where I realized I'm like, life is not that easy. As a kid, it's a joke, and you kind of have a good time, and it's fun, and you see bombs exploding and all kinds of different things going on. But this is reality now. When you wake up in the morning and you go to eat, breakfast, and there's no breakfast for anybody. It's not like you have money to go to a store and buy it. And this was also located kind of like in the mountains in Macedonia, outside of the capital. There's no stores. The next store is like 5 miles away. Right, so it's not like you can just walk in the deli and just buy something like in New York. It's just not.
Yeah, it's just not there.
So you don't eat, right? And then lunch comes around and you're hoping to get something, and you maybe get, I don't know, a hot dog. And, that's the meal for the day.
Yeah.
And, evenings, again, there might be food, there might not be food. So just kind of navigating those issues in the first 2-3 weeks, everybody started getting creative. So everybody started kind of navigating, let me go visit this village for a day, or that village for a day, or just kind of like walk around, see.
So you were allowed to, you were given.
You were allowed to roam around and everything, but you're always coming back to the same living quarters, right?
Yeah.
So you're going, I don't know, next door village, which is, 10-minute walk. You get to know some people there. You get to know some people here. And all of a sudden, they get to know you and they get to see the situation.
How's the attitude towards that? Because obviously, I'm not trying to get too political or too anything else, but at the moment, there's a lot of that going on.
Correct.
People in situations similar to yourself. How were you welcomed at all by the locals?
So the locals from Macedonia really didn't welcome us. Right. Because again, this was a religious thing for them as well, right? Orthodox Christian, we're Muslims, right? So it's a little bit different. It's a tight situation. We were not really welcomed by them, but there was a village, one of the villages, neighborhood villages. It was mainly populated by people from Kosovo, Albanians from Kosovo who are Muslim.
Okay.
So they're almost living there now in the same quarters, but they have made their own village. They have their own farms. They have their own things. So they've already established a little culture for themselves there. Mm-hmm. This is the people that come to our help, right? All of a sudden they realize we're Muslims. There's a connection to it. They need help. And the exchange was, we can help you. Help us in the farm. So you would go cultivate with them.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Here is watermelons. Here is, whatever you need to survive, right? Mm-hmm. So they kind of took care of us a lot like that. When there was no food, they would bring food. You'll go and exchange, it would work a little bit. But for me, it wasn't, I never saw it as work. For me, it was an escape from
where you were.
A really terrible situation.
Yeah.
7 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, you get picked up by someone because you kind of get to know some of them, and you spend the whole day with them. They drop you back off at night. And you don't care what you're doing during the day because you know it's still better than where you are.
Yeah.
And that's how we survived for 7 months.
You're finally starting to build a little bit of a community again. After 7 months now, you get moved on again. Am I right saying you go to Spain after 7 months?
Correct. So after 7 months, they're, basically telling everybody, we're going to have to move you guys on. There's no more space here. The government will not finance this anymore. There's no money coming in. I mean, you can stay here, but you're just going to have to provide for yourself. And that includes also paying for the quarters where you're staying, right? So obviously you can't do that. So what's your next options? So they just gave us an option. Look, you can apply for a visa to Spain, who's accepting refugees. Australia at that point was accepting refugees. Germany, a couple of other ones. But for us, for that group of people that was there, it was mainly either you do Spain or you do Australia.
So your mum's is basically your mum with 4 kids. Your dad's back in Sarajevo. There's no way she's going to Australia right at that point.
No, I mean, no one. I think maybe one family went to Australia.
Really?
Because, listen, nothing against Australians, but we associate with kangaroos, right? That's the only thing you knew about Australia. It's like the other end of the world, right?
There's a bit more to it than that, but I would have been more like, it's miles away. I'm not going.
Yeah. What is going there? It's like Australia. It's like, how do you even get there, right? I mean, we're talking about a community that probably 95% of us never got on a flight before. The first time I saw an airplane was when I actually got on one to go to Spain.
Really?
Right. And everybody else was in the same living quarters, the same, neighborhood, the same.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, do you? Either?
Correct. That's why I said, I was like, growing up, I never knew what else is out there because I was never exposed to it. I mean, my parents worked and all of that, and we kind of had a semi-comfortable life when you want to talk about it. But we didn't know better, right? You saw things on the movie channels and stuff, but that was the movies. That wasn't for us, right? For somebody else who was, in the theater or something like that.
Yeah.
So we then move on to Spain, and we stayed in Spain for 3 years. It's a big move, obviously.
What was good about Spain? What was different about it? Was it the similar sort of thing? Was it the living quarters any better, any different?
No, Spain was very good, right? So we all arrive in Madrid on a flight, and then from there they basically separate people into different towns, villages, cities, etc., etc. So we went to a place called Zaragoza, which is basically north of Spain, a smaller village close to it. There was us and another family from our neighborhood who went to
that's there. Okay, yeah.
So we kind of knew someone. A couple of other people were maybe like 20, 30 miles away, 50 miles away, and so on. It was kind of like each village accepted maybe 2, 3 families or a family or something like that. And they provided with an apartment, some type of, welfare assistance and stuff like that. But again, it was supposed to be a temporary stay, and it became a 3-year stay.
This is the thing. And again, it is a thing. Like, how are you welcomed there as well? Like, because people like you're in that situation, your family, your mum has no choice, right? This is where you're going. They're coming away from, the houses are getting blown up. Everything's happening. They're coming to these countries. Countries are reaching out to help them. But then there's always a little bit of, hostility between like the locals and the refugees that are coming in. People complain about it all the time. You hear it on the news and all the rest of it. Like, what would you say to that about, from your perspective of it? Like, yeah, you understand you're in somebody else's country. You don't want to be there really because you want to be where your home is.
Correct.
So how did you manage that as you're starting to get a little bit older now? Because when 7 months in Macedonia, you're probably getting towards 11, 12, 13 now.
Correct.
You're getting
I was in Spain from age 9 until age 12.
Right.
So I was still young, right? And again, going to Macedonia was a nightmare, right? The whole scenario, getting there, almost maybe getting, thrown off the cliff into the river and dying and not having enough food and everything. You get on a plane. That's a huge difference. You land in Madrid. That's a huge difference. When you land, they provide you with food. That's a huge difference. They put you on a nice bus. Actually, we stayed in a nice hotel for one night before they shipped us elsewhere. And you just kind of see the difference of like, well, this is actually this is like 5-star living compared to where you have been the last 7 months. You arrive into the new village, people that live there, they're very welcoming. So everybody was friendly at the beginning. Everybody, wanted to really help. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, it's a new life, right? You start school, you start to get to new friends. And you kind of create your own life away from where you came from.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like, again, I was in Bosnia for 8 years. I've been outside of Bosnia much longer than that. So wherever I left, it was kind of like, okay, it's not like I missed out a lot on Bosnia because I was there only for 8 years. Had I lived there for 20 years, like my sisters and others, and they have different memories, probably would have been much more difficult. But for me, it wasn't as difficult because of that, because you're a little kid, you just kind of adjust to the situation.
Was there ever a place you truly called home, or was home just the idea of your family being together?
For me, home was just being together.
Yeah.
For me, home was never, a central location, and this is where I always go back to. Even though I say right now I'm from Bosnia, I go back there. Bosnia is a country where I have relatives and, where we grew up and all of that, but it's not really my home. I mean, I would consider the United States to be really my home right now because I've been here for the longest, but it was always centered around family. Wherever the family is, that's where home is. And everything else doesn't really matter because a property is a property, right? Or a country is a country, as long as you have everybody else around you.
Yeah. So 3 years in Spain, then you go to Germany.
Correct.
How did Germany come about?
So Germany comes about because we're staying in Spain and the visa status is expiring, right? And they're basically looking at it, okay, the war is now over. This is 1995, end of 94, 95, when the war is kind of coming to an end. Spain is basically saying, look, the visa has expired. We no longer can provide for you guys, not because they dislike you, but because the war is over. This was, always going to be a temporary status. And, the next step is either you go back to Bosnia or you find whatever the next
stop. The next stop on the path, right? Yeah.
So we had family in Germany who had gone to Germany during those years.
Okay.
And they said, look, come here, check it out. So my mom went for a day, 2, and she stayed. She never came back actually to Spain. And, she's like, well, let's come over here. It's a little bit closer to Bosnia, more Bosnian people. Again, most of the people living in Germany are now also living in somewhat of like, as we would consider projects in today's age here. Lots of Bosnians, lots of refugees and stuff. But again, the German government is taking care of them, a little job here, a little job there. Life is pretty good. Again, you going back to Bosnia, the war is just about to end, just ending. The next few years will be a nightmare anyway.
Yeah, rebuild and everything.
Rebuild everything. You don't have a job. There's nothing going on economically, politically. You never know if it's going to, tomorrow everything is done and we go back at it. So my dad said, just stay away from here as long as you can.
So that's 4 years essentially now without seeing your father.
So that's 4 years, yes, during that whole time.
Did he ever come to Germany?
No. So he never came to Spain. He never came to Macedonia. He never came to Germany. He never came to the United States.
So was his plan always, okay, listen, when you went to Germany, was that going to be the plan? How did the America thing even come about?
No, so the America thing comes again because we're now 4 years in Germany.
Right.
And the visa status expires.
Right.
Refugees need to go back. The German government is basically looking at it like this is mid-1995. The war has ended. This is now 99, summer of 99. You guys got to go back to your countries.
Right.
Thank you for being here, being nice, and, but you've overstayed now. You got to go.
Time to go
to where you came from, right? And it's normal. Every country is going to do that, right? Especially if they're providing for you like they did for many of the refugees. So, and at that point we apply, the idea was, okay, go back to Bosnia or, what could be the next stop? So there were a couple of options. Again, Canada was one of them. United States was another one. It was basically just apply for a visa and see if you can get asylum or something.
Is that what it is, as an asylum visa? And then your father's already on board with that as well. So
Correct.
The plan would be, okay, let's apply for this asylum visa. We'll all meet in the US.
Correct.
And then we can genuinely start again and find it.
So my mom went a couple of times back and forth from Germany because it's obviously closer. And my dad was always in the idea of don't come back here with the kids. There is no life here yet.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed, we protected the country, we became independent and all that. But the life here is not what kids should be going through. It's not what the family should be going through. Go as far as you need to. Eventually, I'll get there. That was the plan all the time.
Yeah.
But that never happened, right?
How does that, for you now as a kid, young kid, leaving home, teenage years, going through all that, and then you just that constant promise of your dad, he'll be there, he's coming, he's going to be there, he's okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's looking out for us, he's telling my mum what to do, everything's great. You get to the US, right? But your dad never makes it to the US?
Never makes it to the US. So during the war, my dad was obviously fighting, grenade exploded, and he was in the vicinity of it. Got thrown into the air about 10 feet, 20 feet in the air, landed on top of his head, and developed brain tumor from that. This is during the war. Never really, obviously, you go to a hospital at that point, they take care of you as a soldier, whatever it is. And, let's go back to the front lines and, make your living out there, right? You got to protect the country. And they just developed into more of a hustle, more of a, medical condition, et cetera, et cetera. But he always kind of hid that from us as well. I think my mom knew, but we were not aware.
Yeah.
How
was he a
severe this
tough guy,
was.
your dad? Was he like one of those guys that'll just get on with it?
My dad, I wouldn't say was a tough guy, but my dad never complained about anything.
Right.
My dad was always a nice guy that just said yes to anything. And if you tell him like, you sit here, we go to work here, we go to work here, we're going to go fight somebody, we're going to go fight somebody. He was one of those guys of like,
just did it.
I'm just going to do it because somebody says it and this is the expectation and I move on with life. Right. And that's probably why he also stayed, because there were a couple of other people that left with us from the neighborhood, older guys, just like him. And their idea was, there's going to be nothing to protect if I'm dead. And his idea was, no, I'm just going to stay because everybody else is kind of staying.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to come to the United States, and obviously the brain tumor developed. He had open skull surgery, and doctors pronounced him dead in the hospital. And he wakes up. So it's one of those stories of like, they don't think he survived the surgery. They're kind of getting ready to basically, get rid of him at that point.
Yeah.
Bury him, and he just wakes up from it. And then the doctor said, we didn't expect him to survive. This was one of those surgeries that in Bosnia in 1999, 1998, when he did it. Look, we're talking about a fifth world country at that point, right? With the medicine that we have.
Yeah,
now, third
and
world country.
Decimated. Everything's just been.
Yeah, I mean, it's doctors, people that became doctors during the war because they had to stitch somebody up.
Yeah.
Not, people that studied this stuff to kind of figure it out. So he survived for a year. And then, my mom was obviously there, visited, and he always said, like, there's no life here. Don't come back. I'll get to the United States, wherever you guys want to go. But our real reason of applying to get to the United States wasn't to come here. It was actually just to extend our stay in Germany.
Right.
Because the asylum process would take 4 or 5 years, 3 years, depending on the family. And we get an interview within 3 months.
So a good thing, but just
correct.
Just
so we wanted to extend our stay.
Yeah.
But
it buys you the time, doesn't it?
It's like applying for you 4 years, 5 years, whatever the process would be. In Germany, which you still close. Maybe things get a little bit better in Bosnia. You can go back and you get an interview in 3 months. And you get a visa approved within 2 weeks after that.
Wow. So now you're going. Yeah.
It's either you're going or you're going back to Bosnia.
Back to Bosnia.
And again, my dad is, don't come back here. There's nothing for you guys here. Mom picks everybody up. Let's go to New York. We had some family members in New York. So, they obviously welcomed us.
Where did you first land?
Straight into Queens in Astoria.
Yeah.
Astoria has now changed a lot, but at that point it was Bosnian and Greek. Everybody else was kind of like, just go to a different neighborhood, not for you this one. So we get there and it's again, you don't expect to get here, right? So it's like a stop and another stop and another stop. And now it's a new beginning again. This is midsummer, June 28th, we actually arrived here. And I know that date very well because my wife's birthday is on that day. So I never forget it, right? So we arrive here June 28th and it's hot. I mean, you've worked camps, you've worked in New York in the summer is brutal. You get off the airplane and that heat just hits you in this, right? Not only that, but like before you even land, you see New York, it's like magnitude. You've never seen a city that big.
Yeah.
I mean, in Germany, we're living in a city that's probably 50,000 people. Sarajevo is, 100,000 people, give and take, smaller cities, right? You just look at, the 5 boroughs out of the airplane. You're like,
it's like 5 big cities all stitched together.
This is it's like a country.
Yeah.
I mean, New York has got more population than 3 times Bosnia, right? So you just land there, and obviously the relatives that we had, they picked us up, took us to their home. Now you're applying the whole process of social security, schooling, everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
And August 1st, my dad died. So this is a month into it.
So then you have to go back. You all go back?
Can't go back. We don't have a social security yet. We don't have a green card yet. We don't have passports yet. We don't have anything.
Oh my God.
So my sister, who was in Bosnia, she was working for the UN during the war. Actually, a little bit after the war, she was working for the Spanish army as an interpreter.
Right.
She was there with my dad the whole time. So she did what she needed to do. We couldn't go. The first time we were able to go was 3 years after. 2002 is the first time she was able to go. So this is again, you're now here in New York and you thought this is going to be life and this is what it's going to be structured. And it just didn't happen.
Something else hit you again. Because you're what at this age now? 16? 15?
15,
16?
Yep.
How do you react to that? Because 16 is an impressionable age. Like you especially in Europe, I always say this, I don't want to sound condescending, but in European terms, 16, you kind of, you're a
man at this point.
You're a man at that point. Yeah. So like, how are you dealing with that? What do you do there at that point? Like mentally?
So for me, it was always wherever I went, I quickly realized that I'm going to have to do something right because there's not going to be anybody at the end helping me to do anything if I don't do something for myself as well. Yes, my mom is there, but again, my mom is taking care of everybody, right? My sisters are there, but they're also going to have their life, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's a tough day, right? You're being told your dad passed away, but that same day I just went to school. I was, taking English courses. I went to school and everybody was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have two choices. I can stay home, cry about it, be miserable about it like I should be, or get on with life and do exactly what he would have probably done.
Yeah.
Which is,
You said that there, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, this is what I've got to do.
This is the cards I've been dealt. And it's either I play the cards right or I could be miserable and it's just not going to get better. So that's kind of how I approached it. It was probably not the best way to explain to someone how you approach it. But for me, it's always been, it's a tough situation. You're just going to have to deal with it, whether you like it or not. This is the cards you've been dealt, and you're going to have to find ways to, make the cards look better for yourself.
Yeah.
While at the same time trying to help the family as much as you can. It's a battle for yourself.
Yeah.
You've learned to survive in Germany. You've learned how to survive in Spain. You've learned all these languages. You've made friends and you've lost friends and you've moved here and you've moved there. This was just kind of like, we're just moving to a different apartment. It's not a big deal. Let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
So
Jesus. All right. Try and brighten it up a little bit.
Yep.
A little bit. What did you love about America when you first get here? You moved to Queens, you moved to Astoria. Astoria is bustle, isn't it? There's shops everywhere, there's people everywhere. It must have been a little bit just the life, the energy of it all. I mean, listen, it's boiling, I know that. But what did you love about the US when you got here?
I think what I loved right away was the magnitude of opportunities that you can have. I mean, you just stay on Stanway, which is the main street in Astoria, right? Everybody knows it. And you just look at all the shops and everything, and you just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot here to be done, right? I mean, I even go back to New York right now. We're in New York past weekend, and you just kind of look around and like, well, there's a job, there's this, there's this. Like in New York, it's just you're surrounded with magnitude of things that you can possibly do. And I never had that feel elsewhere.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, it was kind of always like, yeah, it's kind of a city, but it's limited what you can do. Here, it's unlimited. It's like you can do whatever and you can be whatever. You're just going to have to put a little bit of effort into it.
Like, do you have to be coming from a background where you've had everything you needed, but not a load of stuff that maybe you wanted, and now coming here and having the, like you said, opportunity to have things that you actually want? How does your brain wire up to that? Are you just like,
for me, the brain wired
you
up.
need to be disciplined there.
Yeah, for me, the brain wired up quickly because in Germany, I already started working. At age 13, I started working. I was a newspaperman.
Okay.
So I was, delivering newspapers, delivering, brochures for pizzerias and stuff like that, making a little bit of money just to kind of have a little bit of expense money. And I said, well, I can do a lot of that here. There's a whole lot of people here who need newspapers, who need all kinds of different things, right? And there's endless of opportunities. Obviously, you pick up a lot of friends in school. It helped that I spoke Spanish because I didn't have to communicate in English right away.
Yeah.
Because you can just speak to anybody in Spanish here, right? I mean, there's so many people in Queens, especially.
Yeah.
But the opportunities were there. And it's almost kind of like either you take these opportunities and you do something with them, or this city is going to eat you alive like it does to many. Because New York is one of those places that, for people who haven't visited and are listening to this, either you get on with the pace and you're faster than the pace, or the pace will eat you.
Yeah.
And it will destroy you.
And run you over.
It will run you over quickly, right? And this is why a lot of people just cannot handle New York. So for me, it was roll up the sleeves. Let's see what it brings. So this is now August. School starts. Of course, you get a couple of friends, but, soccer was always the thing that kind of connected things for me.
Yeah.
You could always make new friends because you go on a team. You play soccer. You do this, right? I played in Spain. I played in Germany. I played in, obviously here. So it was always like a connecting piece. If I miss something, I know I'm going to find a way to connect with people and different things through this. We're kind of like in a secret escape. But even that secret escape, I mean, we're talking, I'm 15 years old. I'm playing men's league, right? It's not like right now, players are complaining here about a turf field, right?
Yeah.
We played on glass or whatever it is. And you're playing against people who are 35 and you're 15 and they just come to smash you and they don't care, right?
And you're goalie as well.
Yeah.
Were you always a keeper?
So in Spain, I played only futsal and I was a little bit of a goalkeeper in Spain, but I like playing on the field. In Germany, I played as a center back. But, my turns as a center back, it was kind of like a truck going on a U-turn and you just never get there, right?
Yeah.
Goalkeeper gets hurt and the coach was like, look, you're the tallest, the lankiest guy. You might be just able to save something. You probably suck anyway. And this idea of you chasing forwards is just never going to work out.
Yeah.
Because I was never the fastest, never the quickest. I learned how to be a good defender through other means, which now obviously here with all the sportsmanship and everything is a different story. Can't do anything anymore and get away with it, especially in the VR world. So I said, you know what? Goalie looks kind of like, okay, I'm going to just stand here. I see the whole field. I can't mess up. There's not too much to run back.
Yeah, I have one job. Don't let it go.
I hated running. I freaking hated running. I still hate it right now. There's no way I can just put shoes on and like, oh, let me go for a run and enjoy it. I've never enjoyed running.
So did that give you a little bit of a leg up socially? Did that give you the confidence to get through school as well over here? Because school's a little bit different in this country as well. Like,
right.
And coming in as 15, you've still essentially, did you have to start again with high school or did you?
So I started high school here.
Did you go in as a freshman at 15?
I went in as a freshman at 15.
So you'd have been on the older end.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did first half of first grade in Bosnia, skipped second grade, did third, fourth, fifth in Spain, sixth, seventh, eighth in Germany, and then started ninth grade here.
Yeah.
I was a late guy. So I was 15 at that point. So I started my freshman year, and again, it's a new city, new everything. I was in a high school in New York called Newcomers High School, which was basically for newcomers, people coming fresh into the country, learn a little bit of English, get moved to the neighborhood schools. I managed to stay there for 4 years, myself and a couple of buddies. We always found ways to kind of make up a story why we couldn't go to the neighborhood school.
Right.
It was dangerous. The parents don't want it. We kind of want to stick together. It's not the right time.
Were those lads in a similar situation to you? Had they done the same pathway as you, or were these like now local kids?
Definitely same kind of path as me. Many of them from Colombia, from, all of the Latin countries that are coming through the 80s and 90s up here. Lots of Colombians. So I was living with my mom and two sisters in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. There was no such thing as like, let me go home today. It was kind of like, get up as early as you can. Go find something to do. Stay at the school the whole day. Go play footy. And after that, go train again. Hang out with your girlfriend or whoever you have.
Yeah.
And, get home as late as you can. Sleep and do the same thing over and over
again.
And that was my life for like 4 years in Queens. But it wasn't that my home was miserable. It was that the living quarters was too small and you're getting bigger. So you're trying to find any avenue that you can.
Just to get out.
To be outside.
And the thing is as well, it's easier to do that in a place like this because there is so much going on, like you said. Were you all right in school? Did you do okay in school?
So my freshman year, first semester, I was terrible, right? And they were going to kick me out of the soccer team. And at that point, my coach said, look, you're going to have some type of GPA and some type of grades to stay on this.
Yeah.
And as the first market period grades came out, I had failed 4 classes. And they were going to kick me out. I mean, you're failing 4. I'm passing phys ed, which I should.
I mean, come on.
And probably lunch, everything else I probably failed, right? I was just going to hang out. I was like, this is like, forget about this.
Well,
I liked school, but school wasn't like, it wasn't important for me at that point, right?
Given what you've gone through already, are you just like, there's more important things going on in the world here, and you're just, I'm not sweating this because I know I'll be okay given what I've done for the past 10 years.
I've been in New York now for 2 months and I'm failing classes. I don't speak the language. I could care less about, what you think I should have in math and this, and they're like, oh, math is universal. Yes, but the numbers sound different. The formulas look different. How they approach it is, is different. You go to chemistry class, chemistry. I mean, I can't even do chemistry right now. Right. And, just doing it at that point, my English was super limited. So there was no necessity right away to be quote unquote smart or learn the language. But I always said, I'm going to learn it because obviously this is going to be
that's how you're going to survive. Yeah.
Correct. But it was never like something that I had to do. And then of course it hits you that you can't play soccer. I'm like, what do you mean I can't play soccer? Right. This is kind of like the thing that connects me to everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I just said, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take school as like, it's going to be business. It's going to be a business transaction. I come here, I do my job, they give me a grade.
So you book your ideas up, you get through, do you know what your graduating GPA was from high school?
I think it was like a 3.6 or 3.7.
Look at you. All right.
It was an eye-opener. If they don't stop me, I'd probably fail even more, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the coach,
that motivation to
the
play
coach
football.
That we had, he was also the athletic director, and he was very firm. Like, you guys will just not enjoy this. This privilege will be taken away from you unless you do, the other piece.
So you played 4 years at high school. Did you go straight to it? And then you played at FDU?
5 years at FDU.
5 years.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're in that American system now. You've come over as an immigrant, refugee immigrant, gone through high school, figured it out, got into a Division I college and played at that level. Like what did going to and playing college soccer in the US do for you?
It's one of those things where you look at it and you say, this was never going to be possible in my other stops before this. right? And this was never going to be possible unless somebody woke me up in high school, my freshman year. I go to FTU, could have gone to a couple of other schools. I applied to 15 different schools, did it all on my own. Again, no help, just, my guidance counselor or somebody else. Again, you're figuring out life by yourself at all times.
Yeah.
And then FTU came about, and I said, you know what? A lot of people are telling me I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I should try and get a crack at Division I. So they gave me a scholarship. I went to FTU, redshirted my first year, played the next couple of years. Had a fairly decent career. We had played it was a quarterfinal or semifinal of the conference game at Monmouth against St. Francis, PA. And I dove for a ball that I should not have went overboard. And I smashed myself against the post, and my arms got tangled into the net. So when I landed, my elbow came out straight to the hospital, whatever it is. And after that, it just was never the same. I never found the passion of, let me wake up, let me go through rehab, let me try to get back. In my junior year, I was really good. Like, my stats were really like up there. I was like number 2 or 3 in the country, statistically speaking. Obviously, I don't brag about that, but
yeah,
in this case, I can. But it was one of those, like, I just never found the groove again. Red Bulls invited me at that point. It was MetroStars for camp. And I'm like, even if I get a development contract, it was going to be like 12K or something like that.
Yeah, it's buttons at that time, wasn't it?
I'm like, my family situation does not allow me to take a job that's $12,000 after I'm 24. And even if at 24 I make it somewhere, let's realistically be, how long is my career going to be? So that's when I kind of took the turn of, like, forget about the professional route, let's just do something else with it.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about football and how that got you integrated in school and got you into Division I at FTU. How did those connections and playing and everything else get you involved in the coaching and form connections with people to get the coaching? Like, where did you get your start in coaching after FDU?
So my starting coaching was actually in Brooklyn. I coached at a yeshiva school.
Okay.
It's called Zvidov, and it's all the way out in, by JFK Airport.
Okay.
They played futsal. They played indoors, right? I mean, first of all, it was a culture shock, right? Because they're dividing the school between females and males. Females cannot be on the same floor as males. They cannot be in the same gym as males, right? So it was kind of like a culture shock for me. But the kids wanted to play, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just pretend like I know what I'm doing. So I did that a little bit, and I kind of, did a little bit of camps here and there the first year, and then I got my job at the high school where I'm at right now, and I've been there for 17 years. And again, the job opened up for coaching. They were like, "Oh, would you be interested also in coaching?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come out, help." I was just thinking, smash balls at a couple of goalkeepers, have fun with it, just like always, right? And a week later, they come and like, "Oh, we would like to interview." So I come in, they talk to me about the job, and this is what the team is, this is what that is, and I'm just thinking like, okay, like, listen, I'm 24 years old, it's my first job teaching, first job maybe coaching, really. I'm not gonna get this. My assistant at that point was a guy that actually also went to FTU, played for Newcastle, Chris Coldheart.
Oh, I know Big Chris, yeah.
Big Chris, yes, he was my assistant. So he wanted the job, and I really didn't want the job. I just wanted to be part of it. I was actually using soccer to kind of get my teaching job, because this is 2008 when I graduated. The economy is shambles. Nobody's getting jobs. And I'm like, whatever they can offer me, I'll just take. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. So they're interviewing for the job. I get it. It did help that I spoke Spanish, so I could connect, to 90% of the kids that we had on the team are from Mexico or Honduras or other places. So that's how it kind of worked out. And, I'm 17 years. I'm still there teaching.
Jeez. I've known you involved with a lot of different clubs. You're obviously involved with PDA now, and the guys down here, a good group of fellas. Have there been people who've really helped you along the way, give you chances maybe because everyone needs a chance, don't they? Like, correct. Obviously you need a chance. You didn't have that network. I've always needed a chance. There's people I could name and reel off. Yep. Like, has there been certain people along the way that have really helped you out or give you advice even?
So there's been a bunch of different people that have kind of helped me out and guided me, right? But I always am appreciative of kind of Peter, who gave me the first shot really at something more serious. And obviously my current setting here right now, it's brilliant. I mean, it's goalkeeper director. I come Mondays and Wednesdays, I smash balls at goalkeepers and, tell them how to get a little bit better. I mean, there's just no better job. I know that coaching teams is kind of good and it's really nice, but I prefer to just smash balls at these guys and go at it, right? It's a joy. And you can also, like, if you're stressed on a day, you could take all your stress out during that, right? For the other ones, like, you have to deal with parents, talk about this, talk about that. you're always willing and dealing. But I'm like, once I had the 2 kids, I'm like, I don't think, and my wife she would definitely divorce me if I was doing teams now. So
Yeah,
I'm like, those are some of the people that really help me now. This setting obviously here it's great for me. And, I've done a lot of other different things, but I think I've done a good job everywhere where I've gone, and I've not pissed off too many people.
Well, I'm not being funny. Like, you don't get the opportunities if you don't do a good job. Like, if you're not good, you're not going to get hired. But everybody knows each other in these circles, don't they? So it's a one phone call. Yep. Same with me, same with you. Yep. What about Elvir? Yes or no?
Yep.
Put the phone down. So
Correct.
It's not, you've got to give yourself the credit. What, in the teaching line now, 17 years as a teacher,
yep,
right? Same high school, New Brunswick. Yep. How have your experiences up to now and childhood and growing up in all these different countries and what you had to go through, how does that shape the way that you teach and coach now? Are you very like, and I kind of know the answer, but which is funny for me, but
I am and I'm not, right? I used to be much more straightforward, demanding, but I've changed a lot after COVID. And I think COVID has killed all of us in the teaching world because it has opened up a completely different world of teaching and interacting with kids. I think my earlier years as teacher at New Brunswick were a little bit easier in the sense that I could connect to the kids much more, not just because of age, but also because there was kind of like the first, maybe second wave of them coming here from Honduras and Mexico and other places. Many of the kids that I have right now, they were actually born here. Right. So it's a little bit different. I call them, the fake Mexicans or the fake Dominicans or the fake whatever, right? Because they were born here. They don't have the same experience as their maybe brothers and sisters or parents.
Yeah, parents.
So when I still talk to some of the players that I coached when I was doing the high school team, they kind of went through the same struggles here. So I could connect with them. I could motivate them to do better, to do this, to do that, right? And many of them are now, business owners and all kinds of different things. And it's great. I don't think I would have the same connection with some of the kids right now if I was coaching there. Same thing with teaching, right? I always tell them, again, education is important because it opens up doors. Education is something that gives you something that you might not have, especially for myself, who's been to different countries, different systems, different schools. Education has always connected me to things that I could possibly do and be successful at, whether it be soccer, teaching, any type of job. Without it, you can still be successful, but you got to push a lot of different doors, and you almost rely a little bit on luck as well, right? I try to take the luck out of the decision as much as possible, right? With degrees, coaching licenses, whatever you can do, you still got to do a job after that. So that's one of the things that I think in today's age now the youth is not really understanding. I think now it's
that connection kind of thing.
That connection for them is now, I do something, I want to be rewarded immediately. Where we used to be, I do something, I'll wait for the reward because it's a long-term thing.
And if I don't get it,
I'll
start something else again. Right. Do you ever come across kids that have had the similar sort of experience to you and you can relate to them even, 30 years later?
Yeah, of course. Listen, I see a lot of kids even now, right? I mean, and some of them are, crossed the border illegally. They've come here with nothing, being labeled, especially in today's political world. They carry labels that you just can't take away right now, right? In the atmosphere where we're at. So I relate to them, but I always tell them, look, some of this stuff is temporary, right? My hopping back and forth from going from Germany to Spain or Spain to Germany and Macedonia and here, I hopped around, but that was all temporary. And now you find a footing somewhere where it's a little bit more than temporary. This label is temporary. What are you going to do after this label is taken off, or after we change president, or after, you get a new job, or somebody introduces to a new person, or you marry this person, or whatever it is. Some of those labels will come off. Will you be ready once those labels come off? And if the answer
will that
is
always
no,
be as an excuse?
Yeah, if you're going to always use that as an excuse, then your whole life is just going to be like this, and you're going to be okay, but this is what it's going to be, right? Or you can try to change that a little bit. And if it doesn't work, then guess what? Take a different avenue, take a different road, take a different path, right? Do a couple of different things. I mean, I went back and I did a second master's. So I have 2 masters now, and people tell me, for what? And I'm like, I kind of like school as a business, but at the same time, it might just open up a door or 2 down the road if I want to use it. You never know, right? 10 years from now, I might just say, you know what? I'm going to give a footy and I'm just going to do that. Probably not, but it could be. So education is important. It's an important piece. And I always tell kids, look, just treat it as a business and treat it as a return for business. You have invested your time. This is what you get out of it. You didn't invest your time. This is what the return is.
So we'll get to your family a little bit now as well.
Yep.
You met your missus, you met your wife, Colombian. I have to ask, did you give it the Spanish on the chat up lines, or did you try and play it smooth and just...
The interesting part was we met my last few days at FTU.
Okay.
So we had a common professor, and he threw.
You're getting nervous here. Your arms.
Yes,
now you're
I
getting
am.
nervous. You're sweating a bit now. He's panicking. Look.
This is a big story, right? Because if I get that one wrong,
you're dead. Yeah,
dead, right?
You're dead. Yeah.
So at that point, I was dating someone, but I had a mate of mine who was from Israel. I can't. We went out that night because her class and my class got combined with the same professor. Okay. After we had class, we just went to the bar, right? And this was the last class and whatever it is. And I saw her. I'm like, she looks good, right? And a couple of other people who also look good, but I'm like, she looks good. She's the one there. But I already had a girlfriend at that point, so I wasn't like, wow, let me go talk to this one, and et cetera, et cetera. But she sat in front of me, and she had a conversation if she was going to go out with somebody in the city, and she was talking in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, you're Colombian. She's like, how would you know? I'm like, well, I've dated a couple Colombians. I kind of know the accent. I like the accent. And that's how we kind of picked it up.
Do you have the long hair at this point?
I had the long hair, mate. Right? And obviously the story between her and myself, she actually tried to talk to me before that with one of my friends. But
that might get you in trouble.
But I thought they were dating. So I was like, I just plainly ignored her. I was like, what's going on here? Like, I thought these two people are dating. And I figured down the road that, they were not dating. And, she was actually checking me out for a year, even though she doesn't want to admit to that. And then I come to New Brunswick here, and, this is after training and after I got my job, and I'm going to get a bite in downtown New Brunswick, and we just bump into each other. And that's, we picked it up from there.
So she followed you, is that what you're saying? She stalked you a bit?
I want to say she followed me, but I think I was the one stalking her, because once I got down here, look, I was at that point single, had a job, not much going on, didn't know the city and everything. I said, what do I have to lose? If she was here, she would tell you the story. She was like, it was a horrible first date. She asked me a million questions. I answered them. I never asked a question because I'm just like, I don't know if I wasn't curious or if I don't know how to ask a question.
Yeah.
Just never, she told her mom, like, this guy's annoying, forget about that. And now we're here 17 years later, right? We're married about 10.
Wow. And you got 2 kids now. Kids are what age?
The younger one, Lionel, is 4, and the older one, Ariane, is 6.
Okay, so 4 and 6. Given your journey to this point with with young kids now, how's your parenting style? Would you be like your parents, or have you sort of, like you said, have you adapted it like the coaching, like COVID?
I am definitely not. So I'm more like my dad, probably, because my dad really never like yelled or hit me or any of that. Like, listen, for us in today's age, you talk to kids, the American way of things, of educating them for everything.
Yeah.
In Bosnia, people didn't talk to you. They just smashed you, and you learned really fast, right? I mean, my mom's belt came out, and right away you knew you did something wrong. It wasn't like, hey, honey, let me sit down with you and talk about this. It's not that. The belt hits you, you learned right away your lesson, what you did right, what you did wrong, how you should answer, how you should not. Obviously, I don't have that style. I'm much more into talking about things and kind of figuring things out. But again, my kids are little. Right?
Yeah.
They don't get to me as much as maybe to my wife or other people, because she's a little bit more strict with them. I coach kids, right? So I see all these issues. There's a lot of things that could bother me that don't bother me.
Right.
So they slide, right? With me, they get away with a lot of things. There was days where I'm like, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I kind of will back up a lot of the stuff that my wife kind of does really well with them. But I'm not the disciplinarian. I'm not that guy that's like constantly on them, pushing them, do this, do that. I'm almost like, it's okay, man. Like, you're going to survive today. Hopefully down the road, it doesn't affect them negatively, but I'm much more laid back when it comes to
Do you, you've said the way that you are, like, you're very matter of fact, and you've always been like that ever since I've known you as well. And it's like, this is what's happening. This is how I'm going to fix it. Or this is what's happening. This is how I'm going to manage it. What challenges have you faced as a father up to now?
So our first one is born during COVID era, right? Or just before COVID. So then COVID hits, and we're teaching, both of us. My wife was a teacher at that point, and I'm teaching. We're teaching from home on the internet, and I have the kid in my hands, or she's got the kids in her hand, right? We don't have babysitters, nothing. Obviously COVID era it's terrible for everybody. But that was a situation, so you just adjust to it.
Yeah.
I could have just given up my job and you don't have anything, or you just adjust to the situation. Second one also came around, not very far from there. But then there's also a lot of other things that, like, if I need to get things done, I'll just get them done. And if I feel like they're important to me, I'll get them done. So for me, teaching with my kid in my hands, I'll get it done. My wife does the same thing. She'll get it done, right? So those are the things that come when it comes to parenting for us. We'll get things done. It doesn't matter how challenging it is. It might never be perfect, or as perfect to maybe somebody else. Obviously, social media in today's age shows you the perfect example of what a dad could be or a mom could be. But then there's also a lot of, BS going on when it comes to that, because everybody posts the nice videos, right? It's kind of like the highlight tape of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so much the struggles that you go through, right? And obviously our older one, Ariane, was diagnosed with autism about 2 years ago at this point. And that's been a completely different challenge for us as well. Much more on the milder side, but he still has his challenges, right? I mean, as a parent, you never want to be told that your kid might need something or might need different services. And we're devastated, but we're like, okay, we could be devastated and, again, be dealt those bad cards and be miserable with them, or we can just find ways to coexist with it and make him as efficient as possible, as equal as possible, if you want to use that word, and ride with it. So that's what we've been doing right now.
So how have the support systems been around that to help you? Or is it you and your wife just figuring it out as you go? Or is there been like either community, families around you, support systems in place to help you, listen, I know you're very matter of fact and this is what it is and I'll figure it out. But sometimes is there not a point where the help comes along and it's almost welcomed a little bit?
Yeah. So when he got diagnosed, before he even got diagnosed, my wife was always saying like, I think Ariane might be struggling with this and that. We should get him tested. And I never really understood about autism. I kind of, obviously been teaching. I kind of understand special education and stuff, but never really for me, it was always like, it's a boy. He's going to grow out of it. It's not a big deal, right? As some of the red flags started to come around, eventually we reached a point where he was asked, to be taken away from a couple of schools because he couldn't coexist in those schools, or because he was having issues that other kids were not. And, that's kind of like when it hit us in the face, when, the second school kind of asked us, look, we kind of can't have him here anymore because of a couple of issues that are happening. I don't hold those grudges and I don't really care about them. But my wife was like, we need some help. Right. And he entered the school where he's at right now. And within a week, he was struggling big time. So we actually had to tell the teacher, like, look, he was supposed to have an IEP last year. We didn't kind of attend this school. We should maybe try to get him on an IEP, because if not, in regular education, you're going to be stuck with him the whole year. And it's not going to be pleasant for you, for us, for him, for no one else that's in the system. So he got moved to a different school. And that's when, first day we drop him off at a different school, a special education school, basically in Franklin Township.
Right.
We're driving up Route 27 and we see an ABA center. And we just stopped and we went in there. And there was somebody we talked to and we said, look, we just need help. And, she happened to be Bosnian as well. Coincidence, right? We just walk in and there's a Bosnian person working there. And she said, like, look, we don't evaluate kids here and stuff, but I worked for a different organization before called Berman Center. And they have a couple of locations. I can make some phone calls and see if we can get you, on the list to get them evaluated, because we were on a waiting list for 9 months already at this point. And she got us an appointment like within 2 weeks. So I got evaluated. Now, we get the report. Obviously, you're devastated with, what they tell you about your child. But at that point, what do you do, right? You can cry about it, which we did. And you can kind of, really be sorry for yourself and for the kid and for the situation. But you just got to pick up and go.
Yeah.
And then
everything still exists, right?
Everything is still there. He's still there. He's still alive. He's still going to need this. We're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to figure some things out. It's not easy at the beginning because we don't have much family here. My mom's still living in Queens. I have 2 sisters in Queens and I have a sister.
And then your sister stayed back.
My wife's family lives in St. Louis. Mom and dad live in St. Louis.
Okay.
They do have a place down in Florida, which we go often. And the brother lives in Nashville. So, we're all over the place, right? We don't really have any direct help here. We help each other out and, some other people that can tag along, right? Our dates are like, we drop him off in Queens or we drop him off in St. Louis and we go for a night. So the support systems were difficult to navigate at the beginning. So, he now went through ABA therapy. He's kind of outgrowing that a little bit. He's going to go through occupational therapy. So he's got to go through therapy. He's got to go through things, but we're in the stage of, we're not going to stop from doing something just because he can't handle it. Can't go to the stadium because it's too loud for him, noise sensitive and stuff. Put the headphones, deal with it. We'll see how he reacts there.
Right.
Can't be in this school. Let's put him in this school, give him the services, see how he handles, and then adjust. So that's kind of like the way we have been with him. And his 4-year-old brother is just flying. It's just one of those guys of, you can give him anything in his hands and it's going to be like one of those all-around athletes, all-around pain in the ass kids, because he's just like, he just wants to be involved in everything. Right? Completely different. But they coexist and they're pretty good.
But the more you understand about it early, the easier it's going to be moving forward, because you've got, like you said, you're playing the cards that you've got, but you're playing them in the right way. You're not panicking and, pointing fingers and doing this, that, and the other. You're actually finding solutions for everything.
Definitely hitting as early as you can is the best solution, right? Yeah. And we can deny whether he has this or that, and we can be, most parents kind of get devastated when they don't want labels, they don't want their kid to be different or seen different or characterized different. But in the long run, you're just holding the kid back, right, from something that you could probably address. So, for example, we know that he had issues with noise in the cafeteria. Puts his headphones on, goes to the cafeteria, still able to interact with all the kids and do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Other places, he doesn't need the headphones. If we deny that, we're just hurting him.
Yeah.
We're hurting ourselves. So for me and any other parents out there, the earlier you can attack any problem, it's kind of like a health issue, right? The earlier you detect it, the earlier you address it, the more likely you have a better outcome. It might not be a perfect outcome, but it's a better outcome.
Yeah. With all the countries that you've been in, is there certain things that you've done over the years that you keep with the boys now? Like, is it a Bosnian thing? Is it a Spanish thing?
Yeah,
is it
we
a German?
do, right? We try to, first of all, when we're looking for names that can sound good in Bosnian, in Spanish, and in America. So for us, just getting names was difficult.
Right.
Agreeing on names was difficult, but we got to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we gave our second, when we gave him the name Lionel, it was obviously towards Messi because I'm a huge Barcelona fan. That's what I grew up with, right? Yeah. But we said we're going to spell it like that. We're not going to spell it like an American would spell it, right? Ariane was the same thing. It was kind of like, my wife wanted Adrian. I was like, I don't know about Adrian. Too many out there.
Yeah, no.
I wanted Madani, and she's like, I don't know about that. That's like a female name, right? So we kind of argued back and forth, and then we gave him a name. So that was important to us, that we can kind of pronounce it in 3 different languages or in 3 different places, and it sounds okay.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think that there's just one culture. I think from the Bosnian culture, I don't preserve as much because I really didn't experience that much.
Yeah.
There, right? I didn't experience that much. Listen, I'm Muslim, right? So obviously, the holidays come around, Ramadan comes around. I don't fast, but I understand what it is. If my kids want to go to church or they want to go to mosque, no problem. I'm all for it, right? My family is fasting and all that. Great. I introduce them to that. Obviously, food, we introduce them to that. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. Colombian culture, same thing, right? I mean, my wife is all into dancing. I'm a terrible dancer, and 17 years later, I still haven't figured it out. And she says, if you can figure out how to play soccer and move like that, you can figure out dancing. I can't, but we're introducing them to that. The languages, we would like them to speak as many of them as possible.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that helped you a lot when you came here?
Listen, the significance of knowing languages is you can just communicate with people that you would have never talked to before, right? And that, again, opens up different doors, different conversations, friendships, and all kinds of different things. And for us, we want to definitely introduce our kids to that. We'll see where Ariane goes with it, because obviously we used to speak to him in Spanish a lot. And then obviously before he got diagnosed, he was having trouble in school, and the teachers were like, look, he doesn't understand anything we're saying to him. Can you guys please go into English? So we speak to him in English mainly, but now we're starting to throw the Spanish into them. Bosnian, on the other hand, look, it's not a language that's very common, very much used, right? So it's a little bit different than Spanish or English or French or a couple of other ones. If they pick up enough conversational of it, I'm fine with it. If they don't, my mom will be unhappy for the rest of her life about it, but I'm going to have to live with that one.
As an immigrant and a father, what do you want to pass down to your children about resilience, identity, and overcoming challenges as they pop up?
I think down the road, and I think my wife would agree with me in this case, is we just want kids who are good kids at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And good can be different for everybody. For us, it's, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest, the best player, the genius on the guitar or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a good human, right? A good human. If you're a good human, you will find ways to be pretty good in life. And that's kind of what has carried me. Wherever I've gone, wherever she has gone, we have done good. If we're leaving a job, we leave it the right way. If we're doing something, we're doing the right way. And in the industry where we are at, you leave a club in a bad way, it goes everywhere else.
Yeah,
with you.
everyone knows.
So that's probably one of the things that we definitely want our kids to be good kids, understand that not everything is just given to you, right? I mean, I had to work my behind off for everything I have, and right now we're pretty good. My wife's the same way. Those are things that our kids will probably never experience.
Yeah.
But they should know about it. And they should know how to handle that. And if, again, Ariane may be a little bit more because of his diagnosis, right? He might experience some challenges that other kids might not. How do you navigate that? If you're a good kid, if you're a good human, if you carry yourself the right way, things will fall in place for you. So you don't have to strive for, the genius mind or the bottom. Be somewhere in between, and everything else you can push yourself up and down if you need to.
It's quality, mate. Looking back on all the transitions you've made, right? Bosnia to Macedonia to Spain to Germany to US. What's the most valuable lessons you've learned along the way for you personally?
For me personally, the lesson that I've learned is try to culture yourself as fast as possible, meaning immerse yourself in the culture where you're at. You might not like everything. So, for example, there's a lot of things about American culture that I'm like, man, they tell me jokes and I don't get it. American jokes for me are just not the same.
No.
Right? I might have a completely different humor than somebody else, but I try to listen to it, right? With every culture, it's the same thing. I'm not one of those guys that will go and try maybe every food or everything, and I'm, kind of picky on, or dancing or stuff like that. But I'm not going to say no, and I'm still going to attend the event, whatever it is, and I might be the odd guy watching everybody else dance. But you need to try to culture yourself or immerse yourself in the culture where you're at, especially if you're going to stay around for a little bit. And then pick and choose whatever you like from it. What you don't like, try not to repeat as many times, or try not to put yourself in a situation where you have to repeat it.
Yeah.
What you like, stick with it, run with it, and you never know where it's going to take you. Everywhere you go, there will be good people. There will be people that they will want to help you. You got to find those. But you also need to develop a thick skin of a lot of people that just don't like you, and they will not like you. And that's going to be in life.
That kind of ties in with this next question. What advice would you give to other immigrants or people who are maybe navigating difficult things, maybe even similar to what you're going through now, who may feel lost or disconnected from their roots at any time?
So I think, again, being an immigrant right now in the United States is probably a difficult time based on the political culture that we have. But all of this is going to be temporary. We're going to move along, and we're going to find ways to coexist again and be much nicer and happier to each other. So that's that. People who are struggling, and when they get here or wherever they are, again, always find the good and what you can control. There's a lot of things you cannot control, right? Find things you can control those things, immerse yourself into that, find people that are like-minded, that will help you, and ride with that. To preserve your identity, you can always go back and, look at what your family would do, right? Obviously, there's always family get-togethers and stuff like that. It's not a happy place when you're alone, right? Because when you need help, then again, you're alone.
That's it.
Right?
True.
So identity, it's a difficult one because you can lose that very fast. Obviously, for me, the Bosnian culture, I don't have as much of it. And I probably don't have the big connection to it. But there's still bits and pieces of it that I respect. Like, if somebody tells me, you're Muslim, they don't know I'm Muslim, right?
And that's just understanding people, isn't it?
Correct.
Ask those questions, find out about people. Don't pigeonhole someone as, they are this because they've done this, they are this, or because they've done this, they are this. It sounds easy us talking about it because you and I probably think the same way, but it's easier said than done for a lot of things.
It's one of those, like, again, my wife always jokes with me. She's like, oh, you don't know what you're missing out on. Like when she's eating bacon and stuff. And I'm like, probably, I don't know. I mean, you enjoy it. Not for me at this point, right? But I also tell her, you don't know what you're missing out on when I'm smashing soccer balls at somebody up there in the field. So she's like, yeah, I couldn't do that. I'm like, so, everybody's got their own little thing that kind of sticks with them, and you like it and you kind of ride with it.
That's funny. What have you been most grateful for since you've been here?
I think the opportunities that the country presents you, right? I mean, look, we can go into the negative path here, and you can be as negative as you want to be, but it's a place that gives you a lot of opportunities. You just got to be able to take them. Yeah. And I'm grateful that, number one, all the countries that have opened the doors to immigrants and others who have been in need and have helped, I'm definitely grateful to that. But at the same time, you have to be grateful to the fact that they've opened the doors, but you've also taken the doors. You have not just pissed them, right?
If you were to go back now, right, say, let's put you back. So you go back, Elvir, as you are now, you go back to the bus next to the river at the border. What are you saying to 8-year-old Elvir as he sat on that bus to advise him?
Probably survive this day, and tomorrow could be much better. Again, you're saying that because it was a dark situation, right? It was a really bad situation that you were in.
Yeah.
And you don't know it because you're 8 years old, right? You kind of see it as a joke almost at that point. But if you survive tonight, tomorrow could be better. And tomorrow you could be also faced with a dark situation. But if you keep surviving those dark situations, eventually the light at the end of the tunnel kind of shows up. And that's when you need to run for that light. Like if you see the end of the tunnel, freaking run as fast as you can, get there and cherish it and take care of it. And I think that's what I've been kind of doing in my life the last, 20-something years. Wherever the light opens up, run, get there. Yeah. Because once it closes, it might not be there anymore.
Yeah, geez. What are you most proud of over your time?
I would say, getting an education, I'm definitely proud of, because I'm the first one in my family to have a college degree, the only one to have a college degree and double, triple degree. I don't brag about it, but again, I'm proud of being able to achieve that. My mom never interfered with me schooling or anything. She always told me, if you don't do school, there will be somewhere a bucket with a mop waiting for you with your name on it, and you're going to have to clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
You'll figure out what you want to do. So I'm proud of the fact that I was able to navigate that and do it kind of on my own with, yes, some help, but kind of on my own. Obviously, listen, getting married, having a good life, good wife, good kids for the
Correct
most
answer.
part.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she puts me in my place every day, but without her, I would also be lost a couple of times, right? Many times. She's the one that's always kind of kept me, if I bend or left or right, she's like, this is the right way. This is the way you go.
Yeah.
So she's kept me straight in those things. And it's been important, right? Even though sometimes it's painful to hear it, but that's just the way we are, right?
All right. Last question. What does the future hold for Elvir?
Future is interesting, right? I think the future is more of like, all right, you have done enough. You're doing good for yourself. You have a good home, good household. Eventually the kids will grow. Now it's your time to just take your wife and enjoy life. You don't have to worry about what's the next job, what's the next opportunity. Maybe chase this, chase that. Where's that pressure? I don't need that pressure anymore. So I think the future is more of like, relax. You have done enough. You've put yourself in good situations where, again, you're not going to be the wealthiest guy, the prettiest guy, the most knowledgeable guy, but you'll be pretty good. Ride with this and you should be all right.
Cool. Thanks, mate. That was brilliant.
Anytime.
I really appreciate it. A lot of people know you through the coaching, but I'm sure not a lot of people know.
No, I don't.
I mean, listen, I know you've not talked about it.
Unless I'm asked, I really don't share, right? Because again, in the coaching world, in the team world,
it's different type of small talk, isn't it?
Correct. We talk about players, we talk about issues, this player, that player. We talk about different things that you barely ever touch, like personal stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to go into the dark ages of your life.
No, true. But okay, quick 5 questions for you. Favorite ever goalie?
Buffon.
If you were to compare yourself to a goalie with the long hair, I'm thinking Rene Higuita. Buffon again?
Buffon,
Okay,
Higuita, no, because of the dark complexity is a little bit different. Buffon, 100%.
And there's no way you can do that, Scorpion?
No
chance.
I would.
Not with those hips?
No.
All right. Best place you visited in America?
Nothing compares to New York anywhere else in the world that I've been.
All right. Who's playing you in a movie?
Played me in a movie. Well, let's do Sylvester Stallone.
Look at this guy, Sylvester Stallone.
Let's go. Old school a little bit.
Brilliant. All right. Have you ever stolen anything?
Of course.
Yeah.
Many times.
Anything in particular or just bits and bobs?
I mean, listen, I can tell you.
In Queens, going in and out of them shops?
In Queens, yes, definitely in the delis, right? You would always have extras that you didn't pay for. I mean, in Germany, I couldn't afford soccer cleats. I definitely stole a pair, more than a pair. So, yeah, I've definitely stolen a lot of things.
All right. Favorite ever Barca player?
Favorite ever Barca player? It has to be Messi because of the career that he has had, and I find
some
him
good players in the 90s, though. Hadji, Stoichkov.
Man, Stoichkov was probably the one that kind of made it for me to become a Barcelona player, right?
Yeah.
Because, again, these old school guys of just taking care of business, right? That's kind of like what I connect to. But in the modern day, I mean, look, the guys changed the club, changed the history of the game. Probably.
Well, you name your kid after him.
I named my kid after him, even though I always say I didn't really name it after him, but it was kind of like, it kind of sounds all right. Maybe, you never know, right? He's not a lefty though, but it's okay.
That's true. One Olympic sport that you seriously think you could do?
Curling.
Seriously?
I didn't know what it was, but I could go in and wipe the freaking floor and be good at it, right?
Wipe the floor.
Like, that's the way I didn't even know this existed, right? And one of my goalkeepers wasn't coming to a game and like, oh, Ryan is doing curling. I was like, curling? I was like, you're going to the gym, like you're lifting? She's like, no, like, and she showed me pictures. I'm like, I can do that. It's probably much more difficult than I think.
No, you just wipe the floor.
You said it. Listen, I cleaned floors in New York. I grew up, as a doorman, as all kinds of different jobs in New York. So I could definitely clean the floor and make that thing stop right there. That's
one. All right. Okay. So if your story ever does get released as a Netflix documentary or brought out as an autobiography, what would be the name of it?
That sounds funny, but Survivor, just surviving every day.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's Survivor. Like you just kind of wake up and here's a situation, deal with it. Here's another situation, deal with it. Here's another one, deal with it.
Yeah. Mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Brilliant, mate. Yep. Excellent. Thank you.
Anything you need, man.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.